Alrighty guys, so this is going to be our third and final problem for the week 1 homework. Once again, I said this at the beginning of the first video, but if you have further questions than any of the questions that you have seen here on these videos, please ask me. Alright? Just because I'm making these 3 videos does not mean these are the only 3 pieces of homework that I am willing to help you with. That's not at all the case. I'm just trying to cover as many of the issues as we have together collectively as a class in one set of videos by going over the 3 most commonly missed problems for this week's homework. Usually it'll just be the 2 most commonly missed ones, but for this one we'll do 3. Alright, so this is problem number 35 on the homework. It says that there are a total of 154 girls that are going to be playing in a city volleyball league. How many girls should be put onto each team if the following requirements must be met? So all of the teams are to have the same number of players. A reasonable number of players on a team is considered to be 7 to 10. And for scheduling purposes, there must be an even number of teams. So 2, 4, 6, 8, so on and so forth. Alright, so basically guys, what we're doing here is we're looking at a division problem because we need to take these 154 girls and we need to divide them up into teams. And we have some information here about our teams. So first of all, it says that all the teams need to have the same number of players. So think about what this means really quick. Alright, what this means, guys, is that we can't have a remainder. Alright, when we take these 154 girls and we divide them into some number of teams, there can't be any girls left over. Right? Each team has the exact same amount. Alright, thinking back, if you were watching my former videos, thinking about my apples example, alright, when we put apples into these buckets, we want each bucket to contain the same number of apples, and we don't want to have any apples left over. So in this case, we want to use up all 154 girls, and we don't want any of them to be left over once we've assigned them all teams. So it says a reasonable number of players on a team is between 7 and 10. All right. And for scheduling purposes, there has to be an even number of teams. All right. So let's get out our calculator here because that's going to help us out the most. So we have 154 girls. And it says here that a reasonable number of players on a team is going to be 7 to 10 players. Alright, so let's kind of start dividing this number up and see if we can't get a specific number of teams that yields between 7 to 10 players. So let's try to start out. Let's say that we're going to divide them into 15 teams. So when we divide into 15, so notice here that we're seeing this decimal at the end. What that tells us is that there is a remainder. So we can't have that. So let's try 154 and let's divide that by 11. And if we divide them into 11 teams, there are going to be 14 players per team. All right, now we're seeing here, it says the reasonable number of players on a team is 7 to 10. 14 players would be too many. So we're going to have to try something different. So let's do 154 and let's divide it by, let's try a number like 18. So once again we have a decimal here, so that means there is a remainder. Alright. Oh, and something that I'm just realizing that I wasn't even paying attention to is it says there must be an even number of teams. So all the numbers we should be dividing by here should be even. So 154, I think we just tried 18. Let's divide by 16. 9.625, so once again, still a remainder. 154, let's divide that by 14. And that would be 11 players to a team. Again, has to be between 7 to 10 players. 154 dividing by 20. No, that's not going to work. 7.7. 154 divided by 22. We've got to be getting really close here. And there we go. 7. All right. So what we're saying here is that if you take 154 and you divide it by 22, your answer ends up being 7. All right, so what this means is that 22 times 7 is 154. So we know that if we have 154 girls, we can put them on 22 teams it's hard to spell on here. And those teams are going to contain 7 players apiece. I think I'm just going to stop with P for players. All right, so if we have 22 teams with 7 players apiece, that will use up all 154 of these girls. So you can just double check with multiplication here. 22 teams times 7 players apiece is 154. And just once again, so we see that that is okay for all of our, excuse me, to make sure that that is okay for all of these particulars for this problem, all the teams have to have the same number of players. They're all going to contain 7 players. A reasonable number of players on a team is 7 to 10. It contains 7, so it's at the lower end of this range. And for scheduling purposes, there has to be an even number of teams. 22 teams would be even. So your answer here then would be 7 girls. All right, we'll see you next week.